Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Front-End Frameworks Showdown. In our previous episode, we created components in each our frameworks project. In today's episode, we will be exploring concept of text interpolation and conditional rendering. But what is text interpolation and conditional rendering? Text interpolation allows us to dynamically display data in our front-end application. And conditional rendering allows us to selectively render components or elements based on specific condition. Let's dive into how each frameworks handle them. We begin with Angular. Open your Angular project with Visual Studio Code. Here we have created the foo component in our last episode and we have rendered some static data. Before starting, let's start our Angular server and open the server address into our browser, and we can see our previous state of our application. Now we want to remove this static data. Instead of this, we want to render something dynamically. Let's declare a dynamic data. We can do that by declaring a property of foo component class. I am declaring a property username with value of my name, and now we want to render the value of username property into this HTML that will be rendered in our web application. To do that, take a block of double curly braces, and inside that double curly braces just provide the property name. In our case it is username. That's it. And Angular will render the value of username into web application, and you can see that. Now let's talk about conditional rendering in Angular. We have two ways to render something conditionally in Angular. First one is if-else statement and second one is switch case statement. Let's comment out this and start with if-else statement. Take a div block. You can take any HTML element valid, or you can take any custom component also. And here we need to take a directive, built-in directive, in case it is if. It looks like HTML attribute, but it is not HTML attribute. It is a directive. We will talk about directives in later videos. If directive requires a condition. Let's make our condition. In case it will be username not equal empty string. If the username is not empty string, then we want to render a greetings. Hello username. Now we can see our component have rendered hello Hashinur. Let's make it empty string so that our condition become false, and we can see it does not have render anything. Now you want to handle the case if the condition return a false value. To handle that, write a semicolon after the condition, then write else, then we will have to provide a template ref name. We will talk about template ref name in later, but just do this. Here we can define a template ref name guest block, and now it is undefined, so we will have to define it. We can define a template using ng template component, and we can give it name by #, and now we have created a template with guest block name. If our this condition returns any false value, then it will render DOM element from the ng template block. Let's declare something. Now we want to render hi username. Well, actually our username have empty string, so it is not hi username, hi guest, and we can see it renders hi guest. So if our username property have any value, it will render hello username, and if it does not have any truthy value, then it will render hi guest. Let's assign username any name, and you can see it is rendering hello John Doe. Well, that's how we can handle if else condition. Keep in mind that Angular does not have any feature to handle else if condition, so we cannot do that. Now we have another way to handle conditional rendering, that is Swiss. Let's talk about Swiss. To do that, take a div, and here we will have to take a directive inside a square bracket, and the directive name will be ng Swiss. And here we have to provide the reference property. In our case it is username, and inside this we will have to handle case. So do that, we can write another div, and we can use ng Swiss case, and we will have to provide any value here. In case it is empty string, then it will render hello guest. We can assign another Swiss case, if the value have Hashinur, we can render and else if it is something else, then we can handle a default Swiss case by using ng Swiss case default. It does not require anything as value, and we can print something there. So let's print hi username, and you can see okay, our username has John Doe, so it is rendering this block hi username, hi John Doe. And if our username has value of Hashinur, then it will render welcome Hashinur. And if our username have empty string, then it will render hello guest. So that's how in Angular we can render things conditionally. Let's move to React. Open your React application into Visual Studio Code. Open the foo component where we have rendered a static text. Now we want to see how text interpolation works here. To do that, declare a variable. I will declare a variable using const username equal Hashinur, and inside this p tag I will just, it requires single curly braces, and inside the single curly braces, if you provide any reference, that will be rendered. So in our case it will be username. Now let's start our development server. Copy the address and navigate to browser. Here you can see Hashinur text have been rendered. Well, that's how text interpolation works here. Now let's talk about conditional rendering. In React, if you want to handle only one case, such as you want to check if this condition is true, then I will render something, else I will not do anything. In that case, you will have to use username. Let's say it will be true or false value. So we are converting this username to boolean value, and now we will have to provide a double and operator. Then what we want to render? In this case we want to render username. So this is rendering Hashinur. Let's make it one more interesting thing. Hello username. So it is rendering hello Hashinur. If it have false value, then it will not render anything. It will just render the empty p block. But if you need to handle if, else or else if block, then we will have to use ternary operator. How does that work? Is, let's say in our first case we want to handle username equal empty string. If username is equal empty string, we want to print or render hello guest. Else we want to render hi value of username. Now you can see it is rendering hello guest. If I assign any value to it, it is rendering hi John Toy. And if you want to handle another case, let's say if username equal Hashinur, I want to say render welcome Hashinur. So how we can do that? As usual, we can use the ternary operator to do that. In this case we will write the condition username equal Hashinur. Then we want to render welcome username, else we want to render. So that's how we can handle if, else if block. Here you can see it is rendering hi John Doe because our username is still John Doe. Let's make it Hashinur, and you can see it is rendering welcome Hashinur. And if I assign it empty string, then it will render hello guest. Well, that's how we handle text interpolation and conditional rendering in React. Now let's move on to Vue.js. Well, before that, let's move on to Svelte application. Open your Svelte application with Visual Studio Code. We will work inside our foo directory, foo component. Here we have rendered some static data. To render some dynamic data, let's declare a script block where we will declare a variable const username equal Hashinur, and now we can render hello username. Now start our development server. Copy the address and navigate to the browser. You can see it is rendering hello Hashinur. Well, that's how text interpolation works here, and now we will take a look about the conditional rendering. It is pretty much straightforward in Svelte. We will have to declare a block with pound sign, write if, and here you need to write the condition. In case username not equal empty string, and we need to close the if block. So we will have to start the if block and we will have to close the if block. And now you can see we are rendering the same thing because it have a value. Let's make it empty string, and you can see nothing rendered. Well, if username not equal empty string, then we want to render this thing. Now if username have something, so that is our else case. How we can handle that? To handle that, just declare another block with else, and inside the else block we can write p tag and we can say hello guest. Let's check it. It is rendering hello guest. Well, in case we want to handle else if block, how we can do that? That's pretty much straightforward. We will have to write the else again, and then we will have to write if, and then we will have to write the condition username equal Hashinur, and inside the block we can write what we want to render. In case we want to write welcome Hashinur. Well, now it is rendering hello guest. Let's assign it a value of Hashinur, then it is rendering hello Hashinur. Well, one thing is that we have first condition is true, so it is not going to this condition. So what we can do is we can check it here. If username equal Hashinur, then we will say welcome Hashinur. Else if username not equal empty string, then we will render hello username, and that's it. So it is rendering welcome Hashinur because our username is equal Hashinur. Let's change it John Doe, and it is rendering hello John Doe. And if we assign the empty string again, then it will render hello guest. You can see it have rendered hello guest. So that's how we handle text interpolation and conditional rendering in Svelte. And lastly, let's explore how Vue.js managed to handle text interpolation and conditional rendering. Open your Vue.js application. Let's run our Vue.js server. Here our server is running. Inside our foo components, we have rendered a static text. Let's declare a script block with setup script syntax, and here we can declare a variable const username equal maybe Hashinur, and Now we want to render the value of username inside this p tag. To do that, just as Angular, we will have to take a block of double curly braces, and here you can just declare the variable name. Well, it prints the value of the variable. That's how text interpolation works here. And now we will talk about condition. So it is pretty much straightforward. Let's say welcome. We want to render it conditionally. If it is as Angular's ng if, but with v dash prefix. It is a directive. We will talk about directive later. And now you will have to declare a condition here. In case username equal let's say Hashinur. If username have value of Hashinur, then it will render welcome Hashinur. If username does not contain, is not equal Hashinur, then it will not render anything. Now you want to handle another case. If username have a value that is not empty, then it will render hello username. To do that, declare another p, and you can write v else if, and here you can give the condition user name not equal empty string. Then we will render hello username. Well, let's check it with username John Doe, and you can see our Vue.js application have rendered hello John Doe, so it is rendering this block. And finally we can handle the else block. To handle the else block, just write v else, and you can render anything here. I will render hi guest. So username, if the username contains empty string, then it will render hi guest. Yes, it is rendering hi guest. So Vue.js offers very much straightforward conditional rendering, and in today's episode we learn how different frameworks handle conditional rendering and text interpolation. In our upcoming videos we will be exploring how we can render array into our DOM. So stay tuned, have a good day.